We are live, hanging out here again. Game 4 of the American League Division Series between the Cleveland Guardians and the Detroit Tigers. I am Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis, hanging out here live from the Lakewood Truck Park. We're brought to you guys today by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Come on down to the Lakewood Truck Park. Jensen and I are going to be live from now 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. when the Guardians get underway for this pivotal now win or go home elimination game. Jensen Lewis, what is going on, brother? Happy Thursday to you.
You too as well. We probably have a similar weather day here that we had for Game 1 on Saturday. It was a great crowd, expecting a pretty solid outing here as well. I'm sure people getting off work coming down here. You said it, win or go home, but now let's edit that. Win and come home for pivotal Game 5 on Saturday. And let's just get this out of the way. Done with all the negative vibes, all the negativity and the mentions on social media. Yesterday happened. It's done.
Yep.
It's a new day. You got Tanner Bybee on the mound. You got as good a chance as any with your ace to be able to go out there. We're going to talk a lot of let's score today and really what it means to be able to get into a situation and exercise the demons of what's happened in the last 20 innings. I think it does happen today. I think you've got some urgency for this group. It's not that, Nick, we haven't had traffic on the base pass. Just have not been able to get that big hit. Opportunities against Tarek Skubal in Game 2. Opportunities yesterday. 4 different times you had 2 runners on base. We're not able to get anything across. So while the numbers look bleak, it's all done. As Dusty Baker said in the postgame show, you got to flush it. And you got to come back and be ready to prolong your season today.
Absolutely. We're here, Jensen, to lift the vibes today. We are washing our hands. We are cleansing ourselves from the stink and the stench of the social media worlds, of all the mean people, upset about these Guardians. We're not going there. We're not going to that dark place because they are not eliminated yet. They are still alive and well in this game. There's nobody that I would rather have on the mound than their ace in Tanner Bybee today. You said it, though, Jensen. The biggest thing is waking up these bats.
Yep.
And on social media right now, you can't refresh your feed without seeing Jobu, without seeing somebody pouring a little bit of rum with a bucket of chicken. I mean, people are doing whatever it takes out there to wake up these Cleveland Guardians bats. In order to advance, in order to win and keep this series alive, you got to at least score a run. That's the name of the game here today for the Guardians.
Yeah, and tip your cap. I mean, Detroit executed with their bullpen and doing what they did in Game 3. And I know one of the narratives was that A.J. Hinch maybe duped Stephen Vogt a little bit by having Kader Montero, who only threw 6 pitches, by the way, and then Voter going with John Kenzie Noel, pinch hitting for Will Brennan in the second inning without Willie B getting a chance to even hit one time. And then, of course, we saw David Fry. You and I kind of talked about it, that would be the interchange with Manzardo starting against the righty. And then once the lefty came in, then David Fry would come off the bench. It kind of limited what you could do. But I think also situationally up and down, there's plenty of responsibility for guys not moving runners up 90 feet. John Kenzie comes into that point. If the guys ahead of him had put runners to second and third or even first and third, the ball that he hits to the gap ends up tying the game. Maybe we're talking a little different mindset, a little different vibe. But it is what it is. So we move on. We take the positives that they've had opportunities. And I think if you're Stephen Vogt going in, talking to those guys, even after yesterday and coming into today, is we're right there. All right. I know that's no moral victory, but you're right there. And all it's going to take is one hit to get through, and you hope it's early to help Tanner Bybee with an early lead.
100%. Jensen, what did you make of all the chatter over the last 24 hours, really less than 24 hours, probably more like 18 hours of people really kind of taking their jabs at Stephen Vogt for those, first, second inning decisions. Once Montero was out of the game, he very quickly went to his bench, all the way to the point where there was no other option than Austin Hedges there at the end of the game. And I think that's one of the differences between having a veteran manager in A.J. Hinch. He was able to, maybe I saw people saying that he managed circles around Vogt. I don't know about that.
No.
But I think he got a little clever. He went into his bag of tricks, and when you're desperate and when you don't have starting pitching like Detroit does not, that's kind of what you have to do. And that was kind of really my own takeaway, is I couldn't really find myself to be upset or mad at Stephen Vogt because he was literally just playing the matchups, and then the players that he inserted didn't live up to the test.
Let's go kind of inning by inning, right? Alex Cobb comes out. It was a theme that you and I had brought up of, okay, what would the layoff do? What would his command look like? Detroit gets a 2-out RBI from Riley Green, who had been basically non-existent as far as production goes up until that plate appearance. And they do what they have to do, get the early lead, get the crowd really into it. And now A.J. Hinch was going to go to his bullpen as soon as he got a lead. And I think maybe Stephen Vogt even saying after the game, we anticipated that they might do something like that. But to be fair, I think you got to let at least Will Brennan have one AB.
Yeah.
And then kind of put that pressure back on A.J. Hinch. Even if the same result happened and Willie B flies out and they still don't score, still don't tie the game, you still now have a couple of chips to play. And, hey, is it a learning experience? For sure. Did it end the season? Absolutely not. And I think there is an understanding now of, all right, we kind of have a window into what A.J. Hinch wants to do. Reese Olson going to be out there, and we know what he did in relief in Game 1. But ultimately, it's incumbent now upon guys with scoring position at bats is to really find a way to put pressure on the opposing pitching staff, to have a Jose Ramirez, a Josh Naylor. It's not like we didn't have anybody on base. They had opportunities. Now you got to find a way to break through.
You mentioned Alex Cobb. I mean, okay, a little bit of damage out there on the base paths early on, but I mean, he kept it a 2-0 game.
Sure.
He did his job,
Yep.
I would say. You know, he got you as far as you could possibly humanly hope that Alex Cobb was going to bring you yesterday there in that Game 3. And then ultimately, when they turned it over to the bullpen, we saw a lot of the same. I mean, Timmy Aaron kept the game alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the bats were not able to capitalize on those 2 men on, 2 men out situations. And here we find ourselves now down 2-1 in this series.
Everything magnified, right, because of how that 20 scoreless looks. You know, the 20 consecutive number is one that feels daunting at this point. It feels like you haven't scored in a week. Well, you know, Detroit isn't scoring in bunches either. So everything has still been pretty tight. You know, Cleveland has 7 total runs. They scored all in Game 1. Detroit won on 1 swing of the bat in Game 2. If we want to be objective, if you want to line everything up, it's not like they're battering this Guardian pitching staff around. So I think that's also something to look at from a positive standpoint. Here's the rub. All right, Tanner Bybee got to go out and got to have a scoreless first inning.
Yeah.
Has to be able to get around that first time of the order, and hopefully by that 3rd inning he's got at least a run on the board for him, because now that pushes everything back to A.J. Hinch and say, okay, how long do I keep Reese Olson? Do I feel like this is a path to go? Think about Hunter Gaddis, pretty much full rest. Cade Smith, not a huge workload for him in Game 3. And really Emmanuel Clase will pitch no matter what, because you have the off day tomorrow.
Jensen, it's just one of those things, man. With the 20 inning, the 20 consecutive innings without a run, and people are having a field day with that, locally and nationally. What do you what's to blame there? Is it the players that just aren't hitting? I can't believe that it's a talent issue, because this is the same team that's been so good and so dominant all season long. I can't pretend that they just forgot to hit the baseball. I really wonder what's going on and why. How do you go 20 innings without a run?
Well, I think you also, again, this is a big leagues. You give credit. This is what Detroit did to get to this point. The last 4 weeks of the regular season, their bullpen almost as good as Cleveland's. The top 2 bullpens in big league baseball from September 1st on. Cleveland 1, Detroit 2. It's a theme we thought of coming into this series, that runs would be at a premium anyway. To me, as I look at some of the swings, you could get yourself into a spot where, okay, you're trying to do too much with one swing, or you're kind of coming out of your approach. I don't see that a ton. David Fry's line drive that Vierling catches is a perfect example. On the screws, that when you're going well, that ball's a foot over his head, and it's extra bases, and they find a way to get back in the game. When you're not going well, it's right there for him to take. So I think that's ultimately one of those instances where had the right approach, put a great swing on it, just hit it right at him.
And you said out there yesterday, Detroit could do no wrong.
They really couldn't.
It feels like these last 2 games. But that's it. We're washing our hands of that. We are forgiving all of the sins of these last 2 games. Guardians going to get this win today in Game 4, turn this thing on over to Game 5. Saturday, if there is a Game 5, we'll be right back here at the Lakewood Truck Park. All right, Jensen, it's time for us to bring in a very special guest, somebody that you know very well, both because you are teammates with that person presently on the broadcast and previously in your playing days. It's time to welcome in to the Big Play pregame show, Chris Jimenez. Chris, what's going on? Thank you so much for joining us.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. The weather looks beautiful over there.
It is perfect. You and I would be enjoying some adult bevies here. We'll be doing that after the show, and we'll pour a Coors Light out for you in homage, my friend. As Nick, you kind of heard Nick talk about, and of course the offense is going to be a theme here. I'll ask the same question to you because I don't think it's moving mountains here for this group, but from our lineup and having traffic the last couple of games, just not being able to get the big hit, what do you do in that clubhouse? What do you say to guys about approach today and how to be able to finally get that hit to get runs across?
Gosh, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because it's not like there hasn't been a dearth of opportunities.
Yeah.
They've been giving themselves opportunities. They just haven't found a way to get that big hit. And I'm actually glad that you brought up that David Fry, ball. What was it, in the 7th or the 8th inning yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
7th inning, I think it was. If that ball's 6 inches higher, we're talking about a completely different baseball game. It just seemed to be kind of like anything that could go wrong for the Guardians yesterday can go wrong, and it did go wrong. Honestly, I think you have to continue to trust the fact that now this is the 3rd or 4th time some of these guys have seen some of these relievers.
Great point.
Trust your game plan. Go up there knowing that you're going to get something. You've seen these guys before, and just try to stay to the big part of the field. That's the big thing. I think, sometimes you get caught up when they're neutralizing Hosey. You're trying really, really hard to go out there and be the guy. You want to be the guy to hit the 2 or 3 run homer. It just turns out that you have to have 2 or 3 runs or 2 or 3 guys on base to be able to do that. I think if they just go out, they slow the game down and stay to the big part of the field today, they're going to have a lot of success.
Chris, as a hitter, how do you not let this 20-inning drought and all the fanfare and the media, asking constant questions about this, how do you not let that creep into your mind when you're standing up there at the plate and literally just focus on putting the ball in play and making good things happen for the club?
That's a great question, because I'm not saying that it's in the back of guys' minds, but you almost feel like it looks like it is, right? That They know it's been a long time since they've scored a run, that adds a little bit of external pressure as well. I think the key really is, guys, is you have to just trust the fact that you have seen these pitchers so many times before, whether it be the regular season or, obviously in this series in the playoffs, and just go up there and look for the pitch that you're going to get, not the one you want to get. That's a big difference. Look for the pitch that you're going to get as opposed to the one you want to get. You see it in the right spot, and you try to stay to the big part of the field. I think that's the key, is they're getting themselves in these positions. They just have to find a way to get that big hit when it's available.
Talking with my former Indians teammate, now current Guardians broadcast teammate, Chris Jimenez. All right, G, go into the catching scouting report here with Tanner Bybee as you would be getting ready, and we know it'll be Bo Naylor catching for Tanner today. Because he already faced this club on Saturday, right, and as you said, sometimes the advantage may shift a bit more to the offense, seeing a guy for a second time. Anything you would tweak from Tanner's attack from what you saw on Saturday to what we'll likely see from him early and often tonight?
Yeah, honestly, I think you have to take that as a case-by-case basis, really. I think the formula, the game plan that they had going into game one was fantastic, right? So it's hard to really want to go against that. I think you need to force the opposing offense to be the one to make the adjustment, full well knowing that you have plenty of tools in the toolbox to adjust if you absolutely have to. If you have to get more breaking ball heavy early or more fastball heavy early, right? You have the ability to do that. I think we see him mix in more changeups too than we saw him mix in, just to give these guys a different look. That's a really good weapon for him. He's been able to throw it to both sides of the plate, which, again, as you know, Jensen, that's hard to do, right? As a right-hander going opposite side to get that changeup and kind of fade it back to the corner part of the plate. He's done a really good job of that throughout the season, and I think we see him really attack pretty much the same way until this offense tells him he needs to make that adjustment. That's the hard part, right? Is you think, okay, do I need to be on top of this beforehand? Do we, as a catching staff, as a pitching staff, need to make this adjustment? And I've seen that happen in the past, right? You kind of play right into the other team's hand to where you go out there with almost a very similar type game plan and make the other team adjust to you.
Chris, I love it. We're washing our hands here at the Lakewood Truck Park, and we're rinsing off all the bad vibes of what's happened these last 2 games. But, Chris, could you give the fans out there a little bit of optimism? Is there anything that you saw that really stands out that could be taken away as a positive? Obviously, no moral victories, especially in the postseason. But in these last 2 games, have you seen anything that stood out to you like that's something that the Guards can take away from these 2 losses and turn it into a positive as we get into this pivotal game 4 today?
Well, Nick, it seems as though Chris is having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
Hopefully he'll be back here in 1 minute.
Got it.
Cool.
As we kind of, I'll answer that one for me too.
Love it.
And I think when you understand where lineups are, and hopefully we have that game 5 on Saturday, because I think that also is something with Tarek Skubal. He was a knife through butter, and there was little to no resistance as far as a lot of run-scoring chances. There were a couple, but I think if we have G back in here, G.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, all good.
Turns out when your wife calls and you're on StreamYard,
all good.
All good.
We were kind of going back and forth here about when you're in that mindset of like, okay, a lot worked in game 1, and to go along with your idea too of not much to change. Like as a catcher and Bo Naylor early in this contest, give the fans an idea of where Bo's keys are for evaluating Tanner's stuff, sequencing, kind of where that early dynamic could be.
yeah, that's a great call, because that's going to completely be on Bo, to start this game. I think first and foremost, you need to look at the types of swings that these Detroit Tigers are hitting, or swinging off of Tanner Bybee. Are they being extremely aggressive early in counts? We didn't see that necessarily the first time out. There were certain guys that were very aggressive, but Tanner had elite control of his stuff, and that usually helps, right? So you're looking at where these pitches are that these guys are swinging at.
Yeah.
What count are they swinging at them in? And then again, the type of aggressiveness that these guys are swinging with. Are they trying to do damage early? Are they trying to, which we've seen this team do in the past, foul balls off, really get a pitch count up? I could see them trying that approach today, even though that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I think if you're Bo, you have to look and see. You have a good feel for where these guys stand in the batter's box. The first thing that Bo should be doing is looking and checking feet, and then, okay, now I've got my signal to be able to punch in, because it turns out we don't give fingers anymore. We actually punch buttons now.
Yeah.
But I think those are some key things that you need to look for early and often, just to see, to try to get a gauge, or at least maybe a head start on what these guys may be trying to do against Tanner today.
Absolutely. Chris Jimenez is our guest. Chris, we're hanging out here at the Lakewood Truck Park. I got to ask you, man, do you have like a go-to food truck? Like if you had to name like the GOAT of
Tacos.
all. Okay.
Tacos. Any sort of tacos.
That's a true Reno boy right there.
I love it. Straight and to the point. I'm with you, though. I think a good taco truck, especially out there on the West Coast where, you guys would warm up with spring training, you can't go wrong.
Gee, I know for people here, because we had, did we have the hoagie?
We did. The steaks and hoagies, and then
cheesesteaks.
burgers yesterday.
That sounds good.
Nick,
too.
I don't think you're aware of the and rest in peace the Phillies season after yesterday, but the old stories of and still happens today. Gee, and you can tell the fans about it. The visiting clubhouse, the best cheesesteaks going, but there are lists of people and records of people that have the single day records, a 3-day series record, 4-day series. It's absurd. And G and I are able to partake in that. So, G, I'll give you the floor on the Cliff Notes version of what it means to be a visiting player in that Philadelphia Philly clubhouse.
It's no joke. It is absolutely no joke. You walk in, the plaque is right there. The whiteboard is actually right there. And then they also have a plaque for previous season's winners and all-time records. I mean, if you're competitive at all, which most of us are, that definitely crosses your thought process a little bit. You're like, dang, can I take this record down? But then you eat 1 or 2 of these things and you find out real quick, whoever did that is an absolute unit.
Yes.
Because I have zero chance. I have zero chance of taking down that kind of record. I actually worked for 2 years with the record holder for the most in one day. His name's Chad Chop. Fantastic human being. Quick little story. He ate 8 in one day. 8
Wow.
cheesesteaks in one day, and for an entire year afterwards said he was having stomach issues. Ended up having to go to the hospital that day too and have his stomach
It's
pumped.
not funny, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not funny, but it is funny because we can laugh about it now knowing that he's full, well, and healthy, but he definitely said he had some stomach issues for about a year after the fact. That'll shut it down real quick too. When you're a coach and going and doing that, all right, you can get away with it. But if you're a catcher or any sort of pitcher, could you imagine, Jensen, going out there feeling like you're going to absolutely let one rip and Mother Nature has some other issues for you.
All I know is that we had, that huge storm come through, and the tarp monster almost ended the series for us then, and I had to be ready to go. So there was no snacking on cheesesteaks. Hey, buddy, last one for me, and appreciate you joining us from out west. X factor for you for both teams can be offense, can be pitching staff, can be defense. One player from each side you're watching to be a difference maker tonight.
Yeah, I think for us it's Hosey, and I know that's kind of a homer pick.
Yeah.
But the reason I say this is if we can have the Detroit Tigers, if we can force the Tigers to have to pitch to Jose Ramirez, I feel really, really good about today in particular, let alone the rest of the series, right? They've done a really good job of pitching around him. They've intentionally walked him twice now in the series. They're making other guys beat them, which is, again, a smart play. But if the rest of these guys on offense, at least from Cleveland's standpoint, can force them to have to pitch to Jose Ramirez, I feel really, really good about it. And today, I think kind of one of the X factors is Parker Meadows. We got to keep him off base. That's something that he's done a pretty darn good job of. He's had some really good at-bats. He's going to be playing today, in particular against Tanner Bybee. If we can keep him off the base pass early, I feel pretty good that he's going to have a chance to go 5 or 6 innings. And let's not forget, Clase didn't throw yesterday. Hunter Gaddis didn't throw yesterday. Cade Smith threw very few pitches. Tim Herron threw very few pitches. So Stephen Vogt has a full bullpen to deploy. And trust me, he's going to do it as soon as he feels necessary.
Huge thanks to Chris Jimenez for popping on to the Big Play pregame show. Chris, I appreciate you, man.
Thanks,
if you find a taco truck, out west, yeah, have an extra one for me, brother. Think of us here in Lakewood.
For you too, right now and before the game.
Please do, brother, and we'll take any good vibes we can. You know that.
Absolutely.
For sure. Let's go, Joe Boo. Get these bats going.
Yeah, wake up those bats. Chris Jimenez, huge thanks to him for popping on with us here on the Big Play pregame show. Jensen, what do you say straight ahead? We bring in another special guest, Gabriela Cruz, in the house at the Lakewood Truck Park. Don't go anywhere. More of the Big Play pregame show right after this.
One.
I'm back here to the Lakewood Truck Park, hanging out, getting you guys ready to go for Game 4 of the American League Division Series between the Cleveland Guardians and Detroit Tigers. My name is Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. We're hanging out here every single Cleveland Guardians game, home or away, live right here 2 hours before game time at the Lakewood Truck Park. We're brought to you guys today by our friends over at Lipton Hard Iced Tea. We bring in very special guest and someone who was at the ballpark for games 1 and 2 at Progressive Field, the multi-talented Gabriela Cruz. What's going on, Gab?
What's up, partner? Long time no see, gang. It's good to be here. This is cool because I live in Lakewood, so this was just a little hop skip down the street.
Oh, that's great.
Look at you kids in my hood.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, show us the ropes here.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Having a couple drinks. This is a good family atmosphere. I heard that it got pretty packed the other day, like once game time.
Saturday,
Saturday
game
was
1.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is cool. It's a cool venue. I come here to you guys with nerves. I come here a little uneasy. And I come here doing a little like juju dance runs on the way in. Let's get runs, baby, runs. And hopefully that comes to fruition.
Yeah, that's been the vibe of this show is Jensen and I are literally washing our hands. We're cleansing ourselves of what has happened the last 2 games for these guards. Whatever it takes to get runs across today here in Game 4 because it's a pivotal one. I mean, they have to win today.
I wasn't here, but what was more painful for you? Since we talk a lot about pain in this Cleveland sports town. What was more painful for you? The fact that we really went toe-to-toe with that, like, pitching pitch off, if you will, in Game 1? Or, let's see, am I getting everything confused? Yeah.
Oh, you think it's
Game 2, sorry.
Yeah.
Game 2. How was that the most uncomfortable? Or was Game 3 the most uncomfortable for you, like just not being able to get these guys batted in?
Yeah, I think we knew that Detroit was going to sell out for Game 2 after Game 1, and I think Scooble knew it in his mind. He's like, I gotta just take it to another level, and he did. We were here. Ironic that you bring that up because I don't know how it was for you at the stadium about an hour or 2 before the game, but we were in between sun and clouds, and I told him before we were talking bets about it because we were looking at strikeouts and everything. I was like, I'd hold off until you know, because if it was cloudy, then I think both sides of hitters would be like, outstanding. I can see.
Okay, yeah.
So the shadow's there, and that's why I wanted to ask you since you were right there. Right up to first pitch, it felt like the sun was out, and then you know how that divide is where the mound is in the sunlight, and then halfway it goes to utter darkness.
Yes.
And trying to pick up spin off, 2 guys, and Scooble was throwing 98 with, an unbelievable changeup. It's almost impossible for hitters to pick that up. So was it like that?
Yeah, it was. What I gathered the most, because obviously I was running around, and I didn't actually fixate on that, so that's good you brought that up because I'm really going to notice that a little bit more.
Okay.
Obviously, I notice the weather differences where I'm at the different points in the ballpark, but I'm not as fixated always on the pitcher, like, exactly. And I was happened to be hyper-focused on, like, let's get a run, let's hit, like, let's get those bats. But to your point, I can see what you're saying there, and I haven't considered that. And I will say that at least from an uncomfortability standpoint, I was more uncomfortable Game 3. I don't know if it was because I expected, like we were really rising to the occasion, our pitchers were.
Yeah.
So no matter whether it was bright or cloudy or what the scenario was exactly, our guys, our bullpen kept stepping up and like keeping us in it.
Yeah.
I mean, the offense wasn't there, but I mean, it was just zeros across the board for a while. So like, I really thought we had a chance to the very end. It was way more uncomfortable for me to sit Game 3. I couldn't even watch. I was doing all the things that are suspicious, or what do you?
Superstitious.
Superstitious, not suspicious. I'm suspicious that I wasn't superstitious. But yeah, I really was, because I'm like, I can't watch it. It's not working for us. So then I was like pulling it up on the app, and I was like, let me listen to Hammy. I'm like, that's not working for us either. Let me just like every so often glance. I'm like, what's going on here, guys? I'm way more uncomfortable here than I was, dealing with what we had for Game 2 on and off.
Yeah, I think a piece of it too, like in the back of my mind throughout Game 3, I'm like, something has to give offensively. Like at some point, literally just luck is going to step in here, and we're going to get a run or 2 across. I guess that leads me into where I'm also at here today. We've talked about it, Jensen, already in this show, kind of ad nauseum. 20 consecutive innings without getting a run across. In my mind, it's just like at some point the other shoe has to drop. At some point,
we're so due.
This team is due, and it's not like we talked about it in a little bit in the open. It's not like these guys forgot how to play baseball. It's not like the entire 160 plus regular season was all just a fluke. They're gonna find a way to get runs across at some point today. I just have to believe it.
Oh, did you guys already talk about this? What are your feelings on watching Frankie Lindor just ball out?
Yeah, we haven't got there yet.
All right, so I guess I have a unique perspective. I interviewed him when he was in Double-A and top prospect. Everyone was, why is he not up yet? He's a future. And the last question I asked him, I said, do you feel like you're ready to be a big leaguer? And he really was introspective about it for a good 3 to 4 seconds before he answered. He said, no, I still have some things I need to do. And for a guy that's been told, hey, you're the future of the franchise, you're ready. That's pretty mature at that age to do. And then we obviously saw when he came up, it only took about a year for him to really take hold. And we know what 2016 was with him and Party at Napoli's. And then remember, Jose wasn't even starting that year at the beginning of the season, then found his way in, was such a huge piece. So I fast forward to the pandemic year, and then, of course, we made the trade. You were damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I think they made a business decision first and foremost on, we feel like we can keep one of Frankie or Jose. And at that point, you had to at least get something. But remember, it took him about a year or two to really get going. This is the first real time that they've advanced in the playoffs. Think about where, Ahmed and Andreas Jimenez, obviously the two guys that came back, and Hemi being, that critical piece. Those guys did what they had to do initially. Hemi took the next step. You obviously see him rewarded with the long-term extension. Total up the amount of dollars, okay, that New York gave Frankie. Here's who you have now under guaranteed contracts. You have Jose, you have Hemi, you had Miles Straw, you had Trevor Stephan, you have Emmanuel Clase, okay? You also had the opportunity to extend Biebs if you wanted to, and you had a chunk of change left over to deal with arbitration stuff and be able to have. So it's a win-win in my mind. New York got what they wanted, okay? But this is the first year in 4 that they are really like, okay, we're starting to see ROI. We almost saw it in year 2 with the way Hemi took second base in the second half of that season and took off from there.
And it's taken them a little bit, Jensen, to that point. It's taken them now years to get to that point. It's not like they've been relishing in all of these, National League championships and, World Series appearances. Like, there was a time.
Well, they booed the hell out of him first year.
He was very upset about that as well.
It's weird because it's conflicting. I'm so happy for the guy, and I'm also kind of like, you're living our dream. Like, you're living my dream.
Well, the irony of ironies would be, right, that we find our way in to the ALCS. We exercise the demons against the Yankees if they end up beating Kansas City. Whoever, doesn't matter who you match up with. And somehow the Mets continue the dream ride and beat either San Diego or L.A., and we match up. Now, we obviously know what the national narrative will be. It's Frankie against his old team. It's, Jimenez and all the other pieces that are a byproduct of having that money to be able to lock in your cornerstone guys. But hey, first things first, as we've talked about, got to score to win.
Got to score to win.
First, we really need to win this game. We need to go to Game 5. Like, so many things have to happen right now.
A run today would be nice. we could start there. Hey, Jensen, let's keep looking around at some of these other division series. Obviously, Frankie's home run, grand slam, put an end to Philadelphia Phillies in their season. That was a gigantic swing. Another gigantic swing happening here in the American League. Stanton.
Oh, man.
Last night with the Yankees, we called it a must-win for New York. It seemed like Kansas City really had them on the ropes, although that was tied at 1. And now the Yankees, 1 win away from punching their ticket to the ALCS.
And you'll have Garrett Cole. This is a legacy start for him. Steve Phillips and I were talking about it on MLB Network Radio this morning, and I agree wholeheartedly with him that the urgency still must remain with New York because they would have to go up against Cole Reagans, the ace for Kansas City, if it goes to winner-take-all Game 5. And I can tell you the uncomfortability factor would be pretty immense, knowing what Carlos Rodon did for the first inning or two, and then it was a full implosion, and Kansas City got to him. So I think tonight you see New York try and put the foot down. Garrett Cole puts his team on his back and tries to take this thing home.
And then out west, San Diego Padres. Did we forget that there was a game going on? Game 4. Dodgers win easy, 8-0, and they kind of looked. It looked to me, Jensen, like one of those performances where the Dodgers were able to flex their muscles a little bit and say, "Hey, you know what? We're back. We know how this series started, but we're back." And the Dodgers looked really good in that win.
Huge narrative going into that game last night was Mike Schilt, manager for the Padres, electing to start Dylan Cease on short rest. He's going on 3 days rest. And I think a lot of people were scratching their heads saying, you could start Darvish, and be good, and then Cease be ready for winner-take-all Game 5. Two things that stand out for me. Number one, Mookie Betts, back-to-back games, hitting a homer in the first inning, getting the lead. It was a bullpen game for the Dodgers, and I've got to believe that that whole unit went out together and said, it's up to us. We've got to shut down this Padre offense. We've got to take the crowd out of it, and they did it. But you finally have a series where these two teams hate each other. And I mean, there was some conspiracy out there, and I think this is hysterical to bring up to you guys. So there were fans that are like, oh, you know what? San Diego wanted to lose so they could beat L.A. in L.A.'s ballpark. And you talk about needing security there. We saw it happen in Game 2. You better have some security if San Diego ends up winning that game.
I am all for the conspiracy theories. so feed me that. Yeah, the Padres are going to round this thing out there in L.A. Yeah, that series has been very entertaining to watch. And it was a surprise to me. Although Cease was on short rest, it was a surprise to me that L.A. was able to hang up 8 runs without much resistance from the Padres. Like, guys, there is a game going on here, and you guys could advance to the divisions or the championship series here against the Mets, and that just did not happen.
Unbelievable effort, and that's the beauty of the playoffs, right? So we know we have at least one winner-take-all game, and you hope that tonight that Cleveland can take care of business and we get it done. Selfishly, would love to see the Yankees win. And that means we're playing at 8 o'clock on Saturday under the lights because, yes, we have yet to have really a primetime game. Tonight is, I guess, at dusk, early dusk there at Comerica Park. But, the division series has lived up to the anticipation. It has been great theater, and I think we're in for 2 special games tonight.
It's not really a conspiracy, I guess, but I have a question, especially, Jensen, since you've played in really tense scenarios. How much do you think the atmosphere in which you are playing a part of impacts your play? Because like we just said, this team isn't a coincidence. We're not a slump team.
Sure.
Like, we know we've got it. But I guess I am a little shocked over the last couple of games. Like, what's going on? But as an observer, I can hear Detroit is so loud at our own ballpark.
Yeah.
And now they're playing in Detroit. And now they're in that environment. And maybe it seems obvious, but I am really curious, like, how much that really plays a role.
It does, and I'll go back to my rookie year in 2007 when it was then Jacobs Field and we had 45,000 capacity. Trot Nixon, who was our Austin Hedges that year, if you will, was telling us stories about when he came in with the Red Sox in 2003 and 2004, and like, we hated coming here. It was so loud. We couldn't hear ourselves think. It was a hostile environment. And Tarek Skubal even admitted, he goes, it's a hostile environment.
Yeah.
A couple expletives coming off the mound that we saw and his mom got on him for, but it makes all the difference, Gab. I think the important thing to remember is when you're at home, there could be more distractions before you actually step on the field, and it's almost your respite. Like, oh, got it. Okay, now I can strap it on. We're good to go. You get on the road, and pretty much it's just you and the boys. And I think that could be an advantage for everyone playing yesterday instead of last night and having to quickly turn around. Was, all right, everybody probably went home, got a decent meal, up there in Birmingham, and was able to go to bed and say, all right, there are things that we did well. And that's the beauty of where you are is you didn't have to wait a day and marinate on it. We come right back today. And there's no way everyone didn't get up and say, all right, season's on the line. Let's go do this thing. And that's why I told Nick, and I'll repeat it because I think it bears out, is you have to understand that they were close. Yes, it hasn't transpired. Yes, there's 20 straight scoreless innings. But it's not like you're getting no hit. It's not like you're not having anyone on. Now that would give me a lot of fear. Is that we don't have any. We got stuff going.
It's just that I'm really married to our clutch factor. We've been talking about it all season, how clutch this team is, and the beautiful things that I recently interviewed Stephen Kwan for Cruising Cleveland. Shout out, catch it out on YouTube. But he was talking up a storm about how this team we don't care who does it. We find a way to win, and it shows in all of the data from this season. So I guess I've just been like a little disappointed to see the clutch factor quiet when we need it most.
I think it can go a long way in having a lot of Cleveland fans forget the last 2 days.
Yeah.
A win is a win is a win. I don't care how much you do it by, but if you get it done, the amazing 24-hour difference of you felt. I mean, I was telling Nick, I know what my mentions looked like yesterday, and correct me if I'm wrong, the season didn't end yesterday, but a lot of people thought it did. You come out today, and as big leaguers, we're such a day-to-day sport where you can't think about what happened. It's all done. There's nothing else. You come out today, feel good about your process because you were close. Mm-hmm. Okay, now it's just going to take one. Is it Quan? Is it Lane Thomas who had the big swing in Game 1? Is it Will Brennan? I hope he gets at least an at-bat today.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Would be nice.
Did you talk about this already?
We did.
What you kind of thought about Stephen Vogt and maybe some of the decisions?
Yeah, and I think for people just joining us, I know a lot of the national narrative was A.J. Hinch really outmaneuvered him. I wouldn't say outmaneuvered, but he set a pretty decent trap if Stephen Vogt was going to bite there. And I give credit to Stephen Vogt for staying true to who he was. How many times have we seen early in the game this year he's not been afraid? This is how he builds a lineup to beat the starting pitcher. That was a lineup built to beat Cater Montero. Okay, it changed as early as the second inning, and that's where he was. So that's one school of thought. The other is you have back-to-back days now, and our big guns are pretty rested. And Cade didn't have a huge workload yesterday. You have everything in front of you. So you're asking Tanner to give you 4 innings, just like he did. If Tanner goes out and does what he did in Game 1, they're going to win this game because they will feel that energy and they'll feel that optimism of, all right, we're okay. One hit is going to take care of it, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, Tanner Bybee, Game 1, very good for our guards. 4 2/3 of scoreless baseball, which is exactly what the doctor would order for Cleveland today. Jensen, we've said it these last 2 pre-games, and it hasn't happened, and I'm going to keep willing it into existence. Early offense. Score early and let Tanner really settle into his stuff. Get a 1-0, 2-0 lead before the third inning and feel really good about this ball club going into the 4th, 5th once things turn over to Cade Smith and the rest of that guard's bullpen. Just how important, and I know it feels like it's kind of building on itself and stacking on itself each and every outing, but how important is it in your mind that they find a way to score runs early today?
Yeah, because 1 run feels like 10 right now because you haven't scored in 2 games. So for me, they whatever they feel like doing against Reese Olson, and credit where it's due, he was magnificent in relief in Game 1, really shut him down. And the question there after Game 1 was, oops, did A.J. Hinch mess up? And why didn't he have Olson start instead of having Holton as the opener? So, yes, there will be urgency. What you can't do, and Chris Jimenez said this to us earlier in the show, you can't go away from your process and your approach. You have to. That's the discipline I look for early tonight. We'll know pretty quickly is if guys are pressing a little bit or if they're just sticking with it, driving up pitch counts and being able to have good at-bats.
What's that look like? What do you look out for, to find out, like, okay, the approach is still the same or, maybe time to panic a little bit. These guys are pressing and kind of swinging at everything, if you will.
It's more to the 2 strike counts.
Okay.
When you're behind, are you expanding too much? Whereas, you're staying with it. You understand how guys are trying to attack you. If you see guys expanding their zone quickly, I think we'll have an indicator of they're feeling it a little bit.
Okay.
Absolutely. All fun things to look out for. We've done this every single pregame show. We're going to continue doing it today. Jensen, we've been decent at picking Cleveland hitters to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Give me who you've got your eye out on for this Game 4 today.
All right, so I wrote it down just to have a few options. I told you Kwani at the top. I think the engine that gets it going. Game 1 was great. Almost hits the home run. You get the crowd into it. Runner in scoring position right away. I think he's a guy to look at. Lane Thomas, I told you yesterday I thought could be big. I think he comes back. I told you I had a feeling about Jimenez. Maybe I was a day early. I think he could be a guy tonight. And then Rocchio at the bottom has had some quality at bats. He's been able to kind of help turn that lineup over. His success tonight probably dictates if this offense is able to get more run scoring opportunities.
Absolutely. All right, let's flip this coin over to Detroit, the Tigers. Hitters to watch today against Tanner Bybee.
Riley Green's the guy for sure. He's had great numbers against Tanner in his career, and I think Kerry Carpenter goes without saying that he's been the igniter for them offensively. Parker Meadows, though, at the top of the lineup, and depending on where A.J. Hinch decides to go early, someone who, boy, you watch him defensively, he's been unbelievable. He has really covered gaps quite well, but a sneaky little bat too, so can't let him go. That's a guy that will expand, so if runners in scoring position, you kind of saw that happen in Game 3. Wouldn't be surprised if our guys try to exploit that here in Game 4.
Okay, I definitely think Will Brennan's night. Will Brennan's night. Come on,
He's got to
guys.
get an AB.
We need it.
Give him an AB. Come on.
Because I'm looking at the lineup, and yeah, so definitely I'm putting Will Brennan out there in the universe. I don't want to do Detroit because I don't want to manifest anything on their behalf.
That's fair. That's fair.
Batters to watch? No, none of them. No.
None of them. Yeah,
I'm not watching them.
It's funny, Jensen, that here we are 2 days in a row, though, when we're talking about Detroit hitters to watch. I mean, that's the top of their lineup right there, and that's really where the fear should invoke Cleveland fans, because outside of those, I mean, those three guys, Meadows, Carpenter, Green, are the three that have kind of done the most damage in this series thus far.
I need Jose to do some damage.
Please,
I'm so ready for Jose or Joshy. Give us your swag, dude. Like, we need you more than ever.
We were saying it too, Gab. Like, how fun would it be a road Josh Naylor moment?
I need a rock the baby moment.
Yeah.
We're hurting bad.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Maybe not for this one, but if we go to Game 5, you better be rocking that baby. You better 3-run blast.
It feels like it, right?
Yeah.
It feels like it's inevitable for that.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that I'm talking about this with Detroit. It's not. You can't sleep on the American League Central. You cannot sleep on these teams. I think everyone was like, oh, at least we don't have the Astros. Well, I mean, if nothing else, I'm putting some real respect on our
division's been unbelievable.
Our AL Central.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe the White Sox weren't that bad. No, they were. They were pretty bad.
Except for them. I kind of forgot about them.
I think everyone else did too. You know what's funny is you add up the total division records, and mind you, for the 5 teams, because Minnesota was in this all the way to the final weekend. Miraculously, because Kansas City was leaking oil a bit, you had four of those 5 teams that were in contention at the beginning of the season. People would have laughed you out of the room to say, "Oh yeah, not only do you get 2 teams, you're going to get 3, and 4 of them are going to be in contention to be able to get in." So credit where it's due. I mean, if you think about overall the makeup, Detroit, ironically last year, we said this yesterday, they finished 2nd in the division and passed the Guardians the final week of the season. People forget that.
Oh, we do.
They kind of had that momentum going already. And then Kansas City, 56 wins last year. They're 30-plus over that. I mean, it's unheard of for that stuff to happen. And then obviously with where the Twins are, and I'm not sure if people have seen the news yet, but the Pollard family, it sounds like they're exploring selling the team, and that just kind of gives you a landscape of, hey, it's getting increasingly difficult to compete in this division year in and year out. So we'll see what happens there. But ultimately, I'm with you, Gab. I think this has been as impressive a year up and down, minus the White Sox, for the Central Division in quite some time.
Yeah, minus the White Sox for sure. Obviously looking forward to this one today, as it is 2 American League Central teams in the Guardians and the Tigers. It's win or go home. How about win and come home, as Jensen Lewis put it in our opening segment. We want to see this thing go Saturday. We want to be here at the Lakewood Truck Park under the lights. We'll have to bring some lights out here for that 8 o'clock start. When we return here on the Big Play pregame show, we're going to hit you guys with the refresh. We're just a little bit over an hour away from first pitch out there at Comerica Park, set for 6:08. Stay right with us right here on the Big Play pregame show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome on back here into the Lakewood Food Truck Park. My name is Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. Gabriella Cruz joining us for Game 4 of the American League Division Series, Cleveland Guardians versus Detroit Tigers. This is the Big Play pregame show. We're brought to you guys today by our friends at Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Get on down to Lakewood Truck Park. What time we got here, guys? 4:58. So if you're listening to us wrapping up work, getting ready to punch out, come on down to the Lakewood Truck Park. We're having a lot of fun, and we're willing a victory into existence so we could come back and do this again on Saturday.
I like to see that we've got rally beers already out from people to get the offense going from pitch number 1. This is excellent. If there are rally shots available, maybe we can amp up the good vibes there.
I need a rally shot.
A little rum for Jobu, if you will, I think is in the cards here today, because anything and everything possible to wake up this Cleveland Guardians offense is what we're looking for here today.
If we had a little Jake Taylor from Austin Hedges, the old bunt, he's been known to do it. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that, but oh man, Chris Jimenez joined us in the first hour, and I think his idea, Gab, was, hey, we're close. We're close. And that's why I kind of reiterated to you guys that if there wasn't traffic on the base paths, like Skubal, and you saw it on Monday, a couple opportunities he had to wriggle off the hook. And what is the narrative of this series like if they end up getting to him? Because everyone's like, oh, don't worry, he's looming for Game 5. I hate that word, by the way, for this series. Looming, great. No one cares, okay? We got to get through today.
Doom.
We had Tanner Bybee looming if we won tomorrow or yesterday. But long story short, G was like, hey, just stick with the process. And I think that's the thing tonight. Just stick with what got you here. They've been one of the best teams in baseball. It doesn't just evaporate here in a couple of days.
And Tanner Bybee seriously is looming in about an hour, going to make his second start in this series. And just if you're out there and you're listening to us and you're looking for a reason to be optimistic about this game today, it's Tanner gave the Guardians life throughout Game 1. I mean, obviously that big inning offensively that got the bats going was really what put the crooked number on the board early in that game. But then huge shout out to Tanner Bybee because he shut down Detroit and was able to make Game 1 a very easy watch. Now, since we have not had that very easy kick back, relax, we've got this one in the bag type of victory or type of game at all out of these Guardians. But Jensen, I'm going to keep harping on the fact I want to see nothing more than the Guards end this drought. You hate the word looming, I hate the word drought as we sit here today of these 20 scoreless innings in a row. Give me in the first 3 innings, I want to see at least 1 run get across. So all the chatter and all the conversation about that could be extinguished, and we could really start to get serious about finishing the ball game today and getting this thing turned over to Game 5 right back here in Cleveland.
I'll take a Quan leadoff single or double, and then I'll take a patented Kyle Manzardo RBI double. Let's just end it in the first 2 batters. If Kwani wants to go deep, that's fine too. I know we almost spoke that into existence before Game 1. And it nearly came to fruition. But, maybe you and I were a day early on Manzo and on Hemi. And if those 2 guys come through today, we'll look like geniuses. But it's still there. I still think the lefties have the upper hand here against what's going to be probably a more right-handed pitching idea that A.J. Hinch is going to throw out there.
And you mentioned it'll be nice to see Will Brennan finally getting a bat in this series. You could really say the same thing for Kyle Manzardo. I kept saying, hey, I was so excited yesterday about Manzardo getting the consistent at-bats because it felt like, although I think he is 0-for in this series thus far, he was making good contact. The ball was getting put into play every single time he approached the plate. I hope today we finally get allotted the opportunity to watch Manzardo get more than just 1 at bat in the top of that Guardians order and do some good things, because prior to this massive time off that the Guardians had, we talked about it yesterday, Jensen, Manzardo was one of the hottest Guardians hitters, so I would love nothing more than to see him get after Detroit early in this game, just like the rest of the top of this order. Let's get after him. Let's get some runs across.
I think what's interesting is the postseason brings this, like we were talking about, the atmosphere, even the change of the energy that occurs within the ballpark. I think there's so many other factors too, like people who may have been hot throughout the year, but they're newer and they're still not as comfortable in their skin maybe in the big leagues, and now it's up. The bar is elevated even further. It's interesting to see who brings it You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who brings it? And so this is the game where we're at the pinnacle right here. So I'm as much as I am nervous, I'm kind of excited to see who's going to really just like straighten up and just be like in on it. Because I don't know, it's not to throw Class A under the bus, but it was like one of those things where I was wondering the other night, was it the pressure? Was it a miscommunication? Was it just, hey, this is baseball and that happens? Or, because he's been so clutch all year for us. But, I mean, yeah, expecting perfection is not feasible either. It's just that everything's on the line, so you want to see us be firing tonight.
Were you at the game against Minnesota that Manzardo hit the go-ahead home run late in the game? Were you working that night or no? Against the Twins.
I don't know. I wasn't.
So that was that September series, and I was thinking of the two moments that I remember in the last 2 months. The 4 games in 3 days against Kansas City, where they swept a doubleheader, make up on Monday. They won Tuesday, and they had the lead late on Wednesday. And we had that 4-run 7th inning. And remember, Bo hits a homer.
Yes.
And ultimately was that turning point because Kansas City lost, I think, 7 or 8 in a row. After that, we put them on a slide.
Yes.
Then middle of September, I think, or it might have been like the 11th or 12th. I can't remember what it was, but distinctly the AB, because Manzardo, I mean, I got to believe Twins relievers are having nightmares about some of the late inning heroics from that offense, and particularly not just in Cleveland, but in Minnesota, but that at bat. I told Nick this yesterday. That was my moment for him of, okay, I belong. I've arrived.
Yeah.
And it was such a difference-making swing, not only to basically put Minnesota to bed, but to have earned him when you get here now into October, those opportunities to hit late. So same way you're talking about Will, I hope that Manzo gets at least a couple ABs, regardless if that lefty comes in, and be able to show that, hey, I can handle this moment and be a big piece of the puzzle.
That'd be huge. We'd just see mustaches
everywhere. Yeah. If he walks it off, or obviously can't walk it off on the road, but if he has a big homer late, I think you won't be able to find a fake mustache at any novelty store around Northeast Ohio.
I can't get my hands on one fast enough.
Before Game 5 Saturday. Gab, you made a good point, too, that, like, games like this, especially when your back is against the wall, is kind of where, like, legends are made and, people are, like big names are born. I think back not too long ago in the real near distant or the not so distant past with Oscar Gonzalez. And we didn't really know a whole lot about him before those 2 massive moments in the postseason. And then ultimately, unfortunately, for both the Guardians and Oscar, he never really materialized to much outside of that. But we'll always have those 2 moments in the postseason where that SpongeBob SquarePants theme music was just bellowing throughout the streets of downtown Cleveland because he rose up to the occasion when the Guardians needed it most in 2022. Who's that going to be for the Guards today is yet to be seen, but I want to see somebody live up to that moment, be the hero today, and get us to Saturday because I want to come back here and do this show again on Saturday.
Really quick, because you brought it up, the SpongeBob SquarePants theme song, or his walk-up song.
Yeah.
Another iconic moment for that walk-up song. Jensen, can you recall another moment in that season where it was particularly in the spotlight?
Was it the pizza skirt?
No, that was a couple years ago. I'm still talking about Oscar. There was a moment where.
Was it the cat? Was it defensive or no?
Tim Anderson and Jose Ramirez.
Oh yeah.
Got in that big fight.
Yep.
And everything was going to hell. Well, not hell, but it was awesome. Actually, everything was going awesome. And there's this, and everyone's fighting.
Melee.
Benches are clearing, blah, blah, blah. And the next guy at bat after all of that.
Oh, it was
just like,
it was.
Oh. And it was just like the funniest thing at the ballpark to go from the energy of like fights galore and like the sleeper and Jose and everybody's in the gloves off and benches clearing. And then it was just like, who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
Oh, my God. That's right.
So that's another iconic moment for that song of that season that we can't forget about.
Yeah, absolutely can't forget about any of that. And, I look back to 2022. I mean, he was the hero. And it was a guy, and we've called out a bunch of them, Jensen, of these sleepers. Maybe it is Lane Thomas again, who came in huge in Game 1. I think it could come from someone today that we're not expecting. Obviously, everybody wants to see it it be Jose. Everybody wants to see it be Josh Naylor. Those are your stars. But I wouldn't sleep on a unsuspecting hero in this one, especially, and you've hit the nail on the head on this consistently. Brian Rocchio is a guy that continues to put good at-bats together in this series. He's always on base. It's been a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah, and to think about that first time around the order and to go along with the idea of, all right, is our guys going to be super anxious? Are they going to try and swing in the first couple of pitches, not let Reese Olson get to his good off-speed stuff? What's the idea for Detroit's offense against Tanner Bybee, knowing that Stephen Vogt pretty much has everyone at his disposal, plus the off day tomorrow, so he can basically shorten this game to 5 innings if he wanted to. Knowing Tanner and having seen him, I had a chance to text with his dad last night, and his dad, if you're an Avengers fan, remember Thanos, okay? He's like, here comes Thanos for Tanner. And there's no guy, and we've been lucky with Bieber, we've been lucky with Kluber. Cookie Carrasco, even when I was teammates with him, and him elevating his game, into that 2015, 2016 portion of his career. We've been lucky with guys that when you need a huge start, we've traditionally been able to go to it.
Yeah.
And it just so happens it lines up here where he'll be on normal rest. You're not asking more of him than what he's already shown he can do. There's no team that he wants to beat more because of the career numbers, and that's all he's heard. And I told you this when Skubal started in Game 2. And everyone said, hey, Skubal's looming, Skubal's looming, Skubal's looming. Tanner's like, hey, by the way, I'm the ace on this team.
Yeah.
Are we going to get any love here? There's a big reason why we're the number 2 seed, and Detroit had to fight their way in. So I think he's taken a few things personally from the outside that will fuel him. And now he gets to just go out and do what he's capable of doing. Plenty of talent. The mindset is right, and I think more so than anything, the heartbeat is right. Going into enemy territory, you're going to be amped up. He knows what to do now after having the adrenaline in Game 1. I think that was such a huge thing for him to be able to get through the first 2 innings, figure out the command. I think he'll be in great shape tonight.
I'll put it out there. I like the Thanos nickname a lot.
Thanos. I
like that. I think a lot of people tried to do like Tanimal. A lot of people tried doing, playing around with the last name being Bybee. But
I know. I've tried so hard, guys. I've tried so hard to work in like a Tanner says bye, bye, bye to the batters. And
Watch.
It doesn't, you can't get it into a tweet. I'm like, it's not, it doesn't work.
After the first inning today, here's something to bet on. I bet you TBS in the broadcast, when they're cutting away to commercial, will use the bye 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 in sync bumper music to go to to They did it.
Okay.
They did it in Game 1. I bet they go back to it today.
Wow. All right. So I'm so unoriginal. Well, I had it first, okay, guys, and then I just couldn't get it in doing.
I'll throw another one out for you just because I thought of it. Do they play if we take the lead early? Do they play Cleveland Rocks? Carey?
I think so. I think that's a staple. They always try to shoehorn that one in there. It's funny. You really could play like broadcast bingo with just kind of the cliches that happen when you watch these postseason games. Too funny. All right, straight ahead, we are going to lock in some bets. Our bets were hot, have cooled down a little bit. We're going to get back on our high horse. We're going to win a same-game parlay for our Guardians today. And I have a feeling the 3 people sitting up here are going to want to put Guardians money line into that thing. We'll get you guys our same-game parlay for Game 4 of the American League Division Series. Straight ahead, don't go anywhere. More of the Big Play pregame show live from the Lakewood Truck Park right after this. Welcome on back into the Big Play pregame show. We're live out here in Lakewood. Come on by the Lakewood Truck Park. If you're out of work and you're listening to us in the car, text the wife, man. I'm going to Lakewood Truck Park. Bring her up here, too. We're having a lot of fun. We're brought to you guys today by our friends over at Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Huge thanks to them for kind of sponsoring our whole shebang here throughout the playoffs. It's been a lot of fun. We're having a lot of fun today getting you guys ready for Game 4, taking you guys all the way up to first pitch set for 6:08 out there at Comerica Park in Detroit. Time to put together a couple of bets here, Jensen.
Okay.
We started off this series very hot with our bets. We've since cooled off a little bit, so it's time to rekindle, pick up where we left off, specifically after Games 1 and Games 2.
Okay.
We talked about cleansing, some of the bad stuff, getting that bad taste out of our mouth of what's gone on for Cleveland and for the Guardians these last two games in particular. We've given the fans out there a lot of reason to be optimistic, a lot of things to look forward to. Here's another one to add to the list today. Your Cleveland Guardians, as we sit here right now at 5:18 p.m.
Small favorite.
Favorites
Yep.
in this matchup,
Okay.
and you've got to feel really good about being the favorites on the road out there in Detroit.
All right, so I'll channel my inner Game 1 thoughts. I told you that I would, if my biggest recommendation would hammer the money line. I think you can get close to that, maybe not a house payment or mortgage payment, but we've talked it for a while. I feel like that makes the most sense with the way that Bibee has pitched, what he's done on the road, what he's done in kind of must-win scenarios or rubber match scenarios to win a series during the regular season. Just out of curiosity, what's his strikeout prop?
Yeah, we can pull that up. What would you guess?
It's either 4.5 or 5.5.
Let's go. Tanner Bibee, strikeouts, thrown, over, under. They've buried it here. It's the last possible thing. 4.5 right now. So, yeah.
That's just because I think if they have a lead, they're probably looking at, all right, we're going to get to Cade Smith. We're going to get to Hunter Gaddis for multiple innings. That makes sense. So what do we do before it? We bought down, right?
We've bought it down, and that option is out there. Yeah, you could feel good. You could feel real good about 4.
Because let's say if he pitches 4 innings, it's 12 batters minimum. You got a chance to strike out a third of them. You guys like it higher?
Higher?
Yeah. Let's do
so
this.
You guys like 5?
6.5.
Let's do this.
6.5.
Let's do a conservative, because we did this Monday too, and we nailed it because we were talking about the over too. Let's do a conservative one. So let's take us to win.
Yep.
Let's take Tanner 4 more punchies. And do we like Quan to get hit?
Yes.
Yeah, that's always a safe one. What do you Quan hit?
Quan on base, but I don't. Okay, all right.
So now let's get creative. All right. If we think I think you do on the alternate Cleveland -1.
We're going too fast. I'm having a hard time.
Oh, you want to put it in?
They got to put these in alphabetical order.
I'll write them down. Here's what I think, and you can play along with this at home, or if you're here, the Wi-Fi works beautifully, so you're in good shape. I would say a recommendation, if you want to get adventurous, let's go Cleveland -1. I would say let's go Quan 2 or more total bases.
2 or more bases, okay.
I would say Kyle Manzardo 2 or more total bases.
Wow, now we're building it out here, okay.
And cherry on top, because I told you I think I was a day early on him, Andres Jimenez, 2 or more total bases.
All right, so we're going all bases here. That means I got to take out.
That's 4 legs, right? You should get the boost if you're on DraftKings.
That's what I'm about. Is that extra 25% or whatever they like throwing at you?
Do we pay the tab with that
here
ticket?
at the Lakewood Truck Park? All right, so we're building this out, dude. I'm telling you, they've got to put these in alphabetical order. All right, Kyle Manzardo total bases is currently. Are you guys on it because they currently just locked it?
Oh, my God.
So I think it's one of those things.
Are we moving the line?
We've done it. So Monday we were moving the line.
Monday we picked over 6.5, and they moved it right to 7.
So we're locked currently on Kyle Manzardo total bases. DraftKings isn't letting us bet that right now.
All right, if you don't do that, then I'd go with our group out here, 6 or more punchies.
All right, I like that.
Quan 2 or more total bases, Hemi 2 or more total bases, Bibee 6 or more punchies. And us to win.
You guys are putting a lot of pressure on me to be the guy that builds this out here. I'll tell you,
Listen,
we keep
this
changing it.
Guys, I don't bet. I'm not betting. Just a reminder that I work for the team.
That is true.
Recommendations.
I'm nodding and I'm listening.
Yes.
Yeah, I do not work for the team, so I'm allowed to do whatever I want, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. All right, so I've got I'm keeping it conservative. I'm not going with Ryan. I'm not going with our friends out here in Lakewood.
Okay.
I'm going conservative. 5 strikeouts for Tanner today, just because I'm with you, Jensen. I think that if they get out to a lead early, you have all the reason in the world to look to that bullpen of, okay, I've got Cade Smith in my back pocket. I've got Emmanuel Clase, who we didn't see yesterday, that's surely going to pitch today. So I'm feeling really good about 5. 6 is where it's like, I don't want to get screwed. If things are going well, I don't want to be greedy. And it's like I got screwed because I went 1 extra strikeout that I didn't really need.
I love it.
So we'll go guards -1, 5 Tanner strikeouts. I got 2 Quan bases, and then it's now let me put 2 Kyle Manzardo bases in there.
Okay.
We are unlocked without the boost right now. That's 11-1.
And did you put Jimenez 2 or more?
I did not. So
Oh
we
my
could
God.
we could put that in there as well. 2 or more bases for Andres Jimenez.
Nick's going to be doing bottle service tonight.
20 plus 2,100, 21-1. Your $20 wager on DraftKings on that pays out $440, and that would definitely pay out some tabs here at the Lakewood Truck Park. So we could read through that again for you guys that are out there. This is what we're rolling with. Guards -1, 5 Tanner Bybee strikeouts or more would be cool. 2 plus Stephen Kwan total bases, 2 plus Andreas Jimenez total bases, and 2 plus Kyle Manzardo total bases. I guess we could call that the wake up the bats, or the bats are waking up, same game parlay that's out there.
Can you imagine if we get half this done in the first 2 batters of the game? Kwan doubles, Manzo doubles. You're up 1.
Guards are up 1.
Hemi comes up, doubles, first AB. You full sweat.
Let's see what that lineup is.
I'd be like, cash out, cash out, cash out. Oh, too fun. And obviously, our bets, our first 2 same game parlays hit, because game 2, I don't think we included Guardians money line in there with Scuba on the bump.
No, I don't think we did. The over, now it was starting to get sweaty. We had 5 in the first inning.
Yeah.
And we were texting like, oh my God, this thing's going to hit in like the first 5. And then no runs. Like, yeah. And then the 2 runs in the 6th, and you're good to go.
Jensen, what do you make of the total today? Is 6.5. Yesterday was 7. They bump us down a half of a run on that total today. Expecting it maybe to be a little bit more low scoring. You would hope, especially on Detroit's side of things with Bybee on the bump.
That's why I think Riley Green, who's had good numbers against him, that's where you're looking at. We did see it play out yesterday where Jose got walked. Told you that A.J. Hinch is not going to let him hit in a run-scoring situation if there's a base open. So 6.5 makes sense. I think if you really feel – here's another way to do it if you want to get creative, is if you think that – I'd be interested, too, what they put our team total at, probably like 2.5. And it's probably very low. But I think you also have to remember, and this is what I want to reiterate to people, is it's not like Detroit's hitting the ball over the yard. They have 1 swing in Game 3 where they scored all 3. Outside of that, they had nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, early in the first 3 innings, you get a little RBI from Riley Green with 2 outs in the first to get the first run. Torkelson finally gets his first hit. It's an RBI double. Okay, that's 2 of your 3 runs there.
Yep.
It's not Premier League soccer or Champions League where the aggregate comes in, but the Guardians have outscored Detroit in this series 7-6.
That's crazy to think about.
So that to me is one thing you look at from a total standpoint. Is I think Vegas understands both managers not going to wait to go to their bullpen resources, and that's where you're getting that.
I say let's do a little bit of soccer scoring here today. And Guardians are up in this series 7-6, and we're coming back to Cleveland. No need to even play this one today.
I love it.
Yeah, just kidding. They do have to play this one. Jetson, you hit the nail on the head. The Guardians team total runs for today is set at 2.5.
2.5.
So
okay.
Vegas has got it right there at 3 runs scored for Cleveland. And for Detroit, it's another one of those situations where it's going to be kind of like a quasi bullpen game. Am I right?
Yeah, I would say, and knowing that you're going to have Reese Olson in some bulk capacity, I think is probably where you look at what his idea is, and that was something that I also asked G, because when we go through our scouting reports, and you're seeing a lineup for the second time in the same series, it doesn't happen unless you're in the postseason, or if you have that weird like home and home where like you'd play Detroit on a weekend and then they come to our place the next weekend. So your start could line up where you get the series finale and then maybe a series opener. usually the offense is favored a little bit because they have some familiarity. What I'm intrigued to see tonight, and we mentioned the top of where the Detroit lineup is. Parker Meadows, a little sneaky. Carpenter, as we know, that's the guy you can't let beat you. And Vierling's been pretty good. The average isn't high, but he's had some really good ABs. Bottom of this lineup, you have got to take advantage of. Zach McKinstry, you get Sweeney and Rogers. I said it to you yesterday. I'll reiterate it again. Can't allow the cheap on base, the walks. That cannot happen to the bottom of this lineup, because outside of that, as I said, it's one swing from Carpenter and it's a couple of RBI knocks and doubles from Torkelson and Riley Green. That's basically been it.
Yeah, nobody down there at the bottom is invoking much fear into anyone, let alone someone of the ilk of Tanner Bybee, especially to start this thing out. And then we've been talking about it, Tanner. All we need is to get through these first couple innings, because Cade Smith got through that game yesterday without much damage. Got to imagine he's going to go kind of similar to that Andrew Miller type role that he's found himself accustomed to early in this series thus far. And then you still have Emmanuel Clase to close this thing out. So if you're Cleveland and you're a fan that's out there listening to us looking for reasons to be optimistic, we've given you a bunch of reasons to really be hopeful for this thing here today. And I think when you factor all of these together, not only from the sportsbook side of things and the bet that we just built, but then also looking at the fact that the Guards are favorites in this game, you start to see all the components as to why Vegas put the Guardians as minus, one kind of favorite in this one here today.
For people just joining us, I'll reiterate, it was on MLB Network Radio with Steve Phillips this morning, and he brought up two intriguing thoughts here, and it kind of goes along with what we started to talk about in this final hour, where Cleveland has had opportunities and not gotten through most of the time. It's not a foregone conclusion, but most of the time it's that next game where the floodgates open. He said it himself. It was unprompted from me, and it kind of caught me like, whoa, really? You think? He goes, all it's going to take is one thing. That's why I think you looked that first time around the order, Kwani is so critical, and he really had great at-bats yesterday, was really in the middle of it. I still think Manzo is a key at the top of the lineup. I don't think we see the quick trigger again here from Stephen Vogt on using the bench. I think he wants to have those resources available and force A.J. Hinch now, almost like a role reversal, force A.J. Hinch to make the critical decision. When do you take Reese Olson out? Because you go back to game one, after the 5 runs, Olson comes in and basically shut everything down. But now this lineup has seen him already. What adjustments do they make? What is their plan of attack, and how do they tweak it a little bit, knowing they get first bats and try and get the lead early?
For sure. Jensen, I know you know this. Baseball is a game that is predicated so heavily on momentum. And it looked like game one, surely Cleveland had the momentum. That big first inning, Lane Thomas hitting the three-pointer to kind of put an exclamation point on that first inning was awesome. Ever since, Detroit has had it, and they've kind of harvested it. They haven't done much with that momentum. There really hasn't been.
And their fans are brutal online,
a knockout blow in this series so far. So it should be easy, Jensen, to your point. Okay, nothing's easy, especially when you've gone 20-plus innings without scoring a run. But if Cleveland can get a run across early in this ball game, I agree with that sentiment. Look out for those floodgates to open up here, because there could be a lot of offense in a short amount of time.
Funny you bring that up, because Jimenez just texted me. He goes, I just have a feeling they're going to score a lot today. So I hope our resident Tiger fan over here is ready for the onslaught that's about to come out here offensively. But hey, this is what you play for, right? Just an opportunity to prolong your season. And Gab, you can probably speak as well as anyone on what the atmosphere was like on Saturday for game one, and then Monday in the afternoon. We're secretly hoping the Yankees win so that we get the night game on Saturday. And what in the hell does downtown Cleveland look like on a Saturday night? You got Oregon and Ohio State at 7:30, and then you got first pitch of game 5, winner take all. Going to be on there, so it'll be a heck of a night for Ohio sports.
We are desperate. We are desperate for a win here today. Gab, what were the vibes like those first couple games at Progressive Field? And obviously, what would the boys have to look forward to coming back here to Cleveland for a pivotal game 5 to advance to that championship series? And then we know you're literally just a couple wins away from making another World Series at that point.
Yeah, the thing about the postseason is it becomes one of those atmospheres when someone cheers, you actually don't know who it's for. So I get confused because throughout the whole rest of the year, for the most part, there's a few teams that come in and they travel well.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, what happened? You know,
Toronto.
You're hustling around.
The Canadian dollars work here.
right. Oh,
The Loonies.
and Yankees fans, among others. But yeah, for most of the season, you kind of know what's happening, or you have a pulse on. It's different. The house is packed, obviously, but when something happens, it almost feels like the fans have more of a pull, and you talked about that momentum and having an influence on that, because now all of a sudden they're doing the "Go Tigers" or "Let's Go Detroit" chants, and that's louder than that. I'm like, and so you're a little like embarrassed in a way that you can even hear that, because it's like, how do we quickly coordinate this section of the ballpark to start to counter that with a "Let's Go Guardians" or get the Jose chants going? It needs a little more coordination so that, and we try with the scoreboard team, we're trying to do that stuff, like and get the crowd involved. It's just crazy because that atmosphere means that it can become so level. Like, you think it's such an advantage at home, and it is. We have such a passionate fan base, but I'm always surprised by how much volume comes from these dang fans, opposing fans who get their way in, and now all of a sudden, we feel that energy on both sides.
I think we'll have a pretty solid contingent. I've talked to a few people who made the trip up. A Thursday night. Oh, by the way, it's Red Wings home opener night. They had to move the game back so that there wasn't just an onslaught of people at the same time down there. Here's my best case scenario. The game is close, and we have a big inning in like the 7th, because then that forces A.J. Hinch to have used most of his big guns.
Correct.
And then you get the opportunity now to have them expended the resources. Something you and I touched on yesterday. The whole looming thing about Tarek Skubal for Game 5. Remember, how much better can he get than what he did in Game 2?
Yeah, right.
Impossible.
We've seen it now.
Most of the time, you have a little regression there. And don't think for a moment that there's not internal pressure there for, I got to go back out and try and get close. Like, there's a human element to that as a pitcher of, I got to go try and do that again.
Yeah. With
And
the season on the line, away from Detroit again.
Because to your idea, Gab, of everything becoming level, now it's both teams in the pressure cooker there. You win or you do go home.
Yeah, right.
So I still feel that if you get the job done tonight, it's not a foregone conclusion that Tarek Skubal comes out. And if it's a night game, sorry, dude, you don't got shadows to help you.
Yeah.
We're going to see it. Mm-hmm. And if it is Matthew Boyd again, what a story that would be for Matty to go out, pitch twice against his old team, and be the guy on the mound that gets the W against his old franchise to clinch it and help this team move on.
Would be pretty damn cool to see for Boyd, who was very good for the Guardians in that battle with Skubal there in Game 2. A lot of things to look forward to as we gear you guys just 30 minutes away from first pitch out there at Comerica Park, set for 6:08. Jensen, we've talked a lot about the offense. Where is it going to come from for Cleveland today? When you look at the lineup that's set, Vogt submitted it early this morning, and it's cemented now. How are we going to get runs across as we get these fans amped up for Game 4 today?
It kind of needs to be a blitzkrieg in my mind. I think they've really got to land that first big punch, and you got to take the crowd out of it.
Yeah, that's a big component of this,
Reese Olson
too.
is going to have kind of that speed him up, slow him down. It's not an overly large amount of velocity you'll see him, but he's sneaky, he's deceptive. And so I told you, thing to key on, if guys with 2 strikes are expanding their zone. By the way, can we have a home plate umpire that actually calls the strike zone right? I am not a fan of the robot, but I am a fan of getting the calls right, and we've had a lot of them that have not gone right. And that's for both sides. So you want the real strike zone to be the real strike zone, especially with 2 strikes and late in the game. So I will go with that point. The second point is the old Terry Francona, I call it a Tito's Credo. You score first, you score next. You don't allow the other team to come back. You have the shutdown inning, you go right back and you hit them again in the mouth.
Yeah.
And that is the most debilitating thing as a pitcher is, okay, I thought I got out of it, escape some damage, and then they come right back and they hit you with a 2 spot or a crooked number. You do that, now you put that fear in the minds of most of that Detroit dugout of, we had to, not that this is a must-win for them, because, again, they can go to Game 5 if they lose. But just imagine the pressure. Like,
Yeah.
we had a chance to clinch at home. We couldn't get it done. Now we got to pack it all up again.
Yeah.
Now we got to have Tarek try and duplicate what he did in game 2. I just think there's a little more mentality shift if you get the job done tonight.
Yep, and it definitely puts a little bit of urgency on Cleveland's bats. Let's get a couple runs across in this game early so that thought, Jensen, can creep into the back of Detroit's mind. Like, are we really getting ready to board the plane and come back to Cleveland for a Game 5? Are we really going to look at Tariq again and say, dude, we need that again? That pressure will start to mount early in this ball game if Cleveland can get runs across early in this one. All right, now I'm turning this thing. We've talked a lot about Tanner, but we know that Stephen Vogt has in his back pocket Cade Smith card that he could put out on the table, Emmanuel Class A card that he could put out on the table. If you're Stephen Vogt, what's your kind of message to Tanner Bybee as he gets ready to take the bump for this pivotal win-or-go-home Game 4?
Just don't try to do too much. Don't try to win the game yourself. Execute the way that you're capable of. Let your talent take over. And if you guys remember the home game, the home start, where he had 2 outs and Voter came to the mound, and it felt like the scene of Major League. You know, Jake Taylor comes up and he goes, "This is the out you've been waiting your whole life for." And then family program, so we can't repeat what Roger Doran said. You know, strike this blank out.
Yeah.
And Voter, like literally modern day, goes out.
Yeah.
And you don't have to lip read it. We all felt it. And I like 8 texts going between all of us, like, oh my God, he did it. He did it. Like, this is gonna be amazing. And you could see Tanner just really harness the emotion there, reinfuse it, and focus up. And you saw that Miles and I was 96, 97 the rest of the way to finish off that outing. So we may look back at that point, because it may come up tonight where, because he's done it before, Tanner can talk Voter into, give me one more. Give me one more guy, because I'm your best bullet right now.
Yeah.
Let me finish this thing off. So something to watch. If we get to that inflection point where, all right, is he going to make the decision? Give him one more chance, and I think Tanner will pass the test.
Okay, we'll be keeping an eye out for this.
I love that. And I think, just having that trust, obviously, with your starter, your ace on the mound, gives Guardians fans and Stephen Vogt both a lot of confidence going into this one. All right, Jensen, now I got to ask you about the bench and how do you use this bench? Because yesterday was just whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, everyone was surprised when A.J. Hinch made the call to the bullpen. Hammy literally was cracking jokes throughout the whole next inning. He was like, maybe if he threw 7 perfect pitches instead of just 6, we would have seen him come out for one more. Maybe if it was just 5, maybe we would have had Montero for one more inning. If you're Stephen Vogt in this game, now you have some guys on your bench in a David Fry who has had opportunities, but not really a lot of capitalization on said opportunities. But you have Big Christmas, who we know throughout the regular season had proved to be able to change the outcome of a game with just one swing of a bat. If you're Stephen Vogt, you're looking at some of these guys on the bench. Where do you deploy them kind of and when?
Yeah, Voter would look at Fry, of course, in a position where if you're going to lose the DH, because you've got Angel Martinez, switch hitter, the only switch hitter you got. Remember, Schneeman's still on here too, so if you're looking for some speed and you don't want to burn Martinez early in the game, that could be someone to look at. But I think John Kenzie is kind of held back for just a minute because he has struggled, I think, kind of with some swing and miss. Fry has a little bit too, but Fry at least has a couple of hits.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that last at bat, although he didn't get the hit, I think he takes away from that, like, I'm on it. I hit on the screws, unlucky, that's baseball, that happens. So goes back to our original thought. I don't think we see anything in the second like we did. I know it caught a lot of people off guard. I don't think we see that just because you don't know now in an elimination game when you might need that a little bit later. I think you see perhaps 2 times through the order before we make any significant lineup changes.
Gab, how you feeling? Nerves starting to subside a little, or as we get closer, your nerves starting to build? As first pitch now, literally just about 20 minutes away.
It's crazy because when I showed up, I was a lot of nervous energy, and right now I'm just like starting to get locked in. I'm starting to think like the players. I'm starting to think like when you go to play a round of cards with your friends and you keep messing up or whatever, and then you're like, all right, the second round you're like, all right, now I'm dialed in.
That was just meme of the guy with the video
now
game.
This is for real. When you come out and you're like, it's out of my system. I'm about to about to do it right now. So I am just looking with anticipation, and honestly, some of the things that Jensen pointed out, it would be really cool, Jensen, actually to watch a game from your perspective, because a lot of times I'm fighting to know exactly what's even happening, or like what you're talking about with shadows and the pitcher and all these little details. It's fun to learn, because honestly I feel like I'm always learning when you're on our show or you're bringing the heat with Jensen Lewis. There's always something I'm taking away from it. But just kind of digesting all that we've kind of gone over tonight. Going to keep my eyes out for it's nice to watch it on TV in a way, because you can really see and hear everything that happens.
Yeah.
When you're in the ballpark, sometimes you're at a little bit of a disadvantage.
Sure.
You sort of miss the angle on something.
Yep.
I can't always see. I'm nearsighted, or is it farsighted? I can't see far away. I'm nearsighted. But so I can't always see on the board. I'm like looking, I'm squinting. I'm like, how many balls? How much? And I'm trying to load the MLB app, and it's not loading. And so little things like that. It's fun to just kind of like sit back, get a little locked in, and watch it all go down.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a fan here watching, if I'm a fan watching, anywhere else, if you're in the ballpark, like the great part about our game is the human element, and there are guys that are great when the pressure mounts. And we always say that it's harder to watch from where we are now on the media side, because we're not in control of anything. And I think those guys have been so great all year long. Go back to what Austin Hedges said in April. We've approached every game like it's a playoff game. That's hard to do. That's hard to maintain through 6 months of the regular season. But credit where it's due. For the majority of the year, you can say that they did it. Well, all of that work and all of those repetitions now have to come into play for games like tonight, for what we hope a game on Saturday. The work is done, and when Voter had the champagne bath, and he said, all the hard work's done. Now we get to have fun. It's fun playing. Like there's an uneasiness even for Detroit.
Yeah.
There's still pressure on them tonight. You still got to come out, and they'll be riled up. They'll have the home fans behind them. But I'll go back to my own experience in 2007 when we had the chance to knock out Boston in Game 5, and there's just, you can feel it. There was like an ominous feel from the start. And we were like, oh, no, not good. No, not good vibes. Not feeling it. It's not good.
Yeah.
I haven't really felt that. I haven't had any moment today where I feel, I don't know if they can do it. Go back to the things that you know. You get the right guy in the hill. If we weren't hitting the last 2 days, meaning like if we didn't have traffic, if we didn't have opportunities, I'd be a bit spooked. I'm not spooked about that. By the same coin, I would say that if Detroit had just been bashing our guys, like what's the best thing we've had all year? Our bullpen.
Yes.
No one has touched up our bullpen except one swing against Clase, and it was his second worst slider of the year. Okay, that is as perfect a storm as you can have. All right, that notwithstanding, we said at the top of the show, our theme was flush everything. You cannot do a damn thing about yesterday. All you have is the 9 innings in front of you. Go out and let your athletic ability take over. You've trained for it. You've put in all the work. This is why you show up at 4 a.m. in Goodyear every day to get the early reps, to do what you need to do so that you can take your mind out of it.
Yeah.
And last but not least, I only got to play in one postseason in my big league career. We went to Game 7 in the ALCS. We lost. It was a heartbreaking loss. But I came back in the offseason. I'm like, we're going to do this every year. Never got back to the postseason.
Yeah.
So for guys to relish and appreciate the opportunity they have in front of them, yes, we've lost 11 elimination games in a row. Take that and be the guy and be the team that ended that streak, that ended it not only tonight, but then punched your ticket into the league championship series on Saturday.
Jensen Lewis pumping up the crowd here at the Lakewood Truck Park. Beautifully said.
Let's get a beer.
Yeah, as we are.
I'll hug you, Bear. Let's get a beer.
As we are growing closer and closer to first pitch of Game 4. It's win or go home. No, we're saying it's win and come home for these Cleveland Guardians, as a win today would mean they're right back here in Cleveland, Ohio for a Game 5 on Saturday. All right, guys, it is prediction time as we close in on this game. The vibes are obviously high. You can't change what happened in that Game 3. You can't change what happened with Scuba on the mound in Game 2. All we know as we sit here today is Tanner Bybee is on the mound. The Guardians offense has to find a way to get runs across. In my mind and in my estimation, they've got to find a way to do that early in this game today. I'm going to go Guardians win this game with a final score 6-2. It's going to be an offensive onslaught, and the Guardians get a big win here today.
I literally texted Jimenez. We did this again yesterday.
We did it yesterday.
I texted him 6-3.
All right.
Guards win.
Guards win 6-3. Gab, let's...
It can't be a close game. Put it out of reach. Let your bullpen take over.
You know what? I'm going to go a shutout from your Guardians. Let's do 5-0.
5-0 Guardians win. We're feeling really good about this game.
I gotta look it up, and if we win before our show, by the way, we'll be back here. Time to be determined, depending on what happens with the Royals and the Yankees game. We'll be back here Saturday, either at 2 o'clock for the show or at 6 o'clock for the show. I'll ask our MLB Network research department if a division series first 4 games has had 4 shutouts. I don't know if it's ever happened in history, but you would talk about.
It probably won't happen. But I'm really big on the manifestation here.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
And stranger things have happened. And look what happened. That was the largest postseason shutout in franchise history for Game 1. So I mean, listen, anything's on the table. It's a shutout from your Guards tonight for me, as far as I'm concerned in this moment.
Find out what the exacta is.
Yeah, how about that? I don't even think you would put that in. Would be a lot of fun. Gab's got the Guards winning by a final score, shutout fashion, 5-0. Jensen Lewis has the Guardians winning 6-3, and I've got the Guards winning 6-2.
What about Ryan?
A big number.
What do you got,
Ryan? What do we got?
I got Voice of God here, by the way. Hello. I got Guards 7, Detroit 2. Tanner Bybee goes 7 innings, 8 strikeouts. Cade Smith scoreless in 8th. Emmanuel Clase shuts it out with 3 Ks.
Wow.
Have you had Joe Boo's rum already? We don't know about it?
I see the future, Jensen.
I love that.
A lot of optimism.
What's the exact on that? 7-2 Guards.
Yeah.
Huh? Wow.
A lot of optimism coming from our production desk. We appreciate you guys hanging out here with us at the Lakewood Truck Park. We've had a ton of fun, sincerely, throughout this entire American League Division Series. It's just been a blast hanging out.
It's not over. We'll see you again.
Yes.
We just don't know when on Saturday.
On Saturday, we will be back here. We will be sweating the Guards for Game 5. We will be watching Ohio State, number 2 versus number 3 in the nation, versus the Oregon Ducks, because we'll go to a little duck hunting, too.
We'll do a little
Saturday.
All-Ohio parlay on Saturday, right?
Hey, that's how we started out this series on Saturday, and we'll finish it on Saturday with an All-Ohio parlay. Let's get a win today for our Cleveland Guardians. For Jensen Lewis and Gabriella Cruz, I am Nick Padone. Go follow us on social media at BIGPLAY. Appreciate you guys tuning in to these pregame shows. We'll do it again Saturday for Game 5. Let's go, Guards.